are listening to The Common Sense Practical Prepper, sponsored by Duct Tape, the real duct tape. It fixes everything, except bad decisions. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America. From border to border, coast to coast, and all ships at sea, here is your host, Keith.
Hey everybody, this is Keith, and welcome back to the Common Sense Practical Prepper podcast, Monday, August the 24th, 2026. Well, as you know, a couple episodes ago, I talked about societal rot. Apparently, I struck a nerve with a few listeners. Got a lot of emails coming in hot and heavy. Very respectful, don't get me wrong, but we'll probably cover those in a mailbag episode pretty soon. So since we're talking about behaviors, let's go ahead and talk about another set of behaviors that I think are pretty important. So after I recorded the societal rot episode, I kept coming back to one thought. So if we're going to spend time talking about what is wrong, let's spend a little bit of time and talk about what is right or how we can make things better. So here's where I landed. We can't fix the whole world. We all know that. You know that. We can't make strangers on the internet act right. We can't force accountability on folks who do not want to be held accountable. But there is one place where every single one of us has some real lasting influence. That's in our homes and with our families. And if you have young children, our kids that are sitting at the dinner table with us every evening. So when I look at problems, like we talked about the last time, the entitlement, the lack of awareness, the inability to handle adversity, I see both a cultural problem and, in many instances, a parenting gap. Somewhere along the way, we stopped teaching our kids how to be capable. And I'm not talking about everybody out there. I'm sure there's plenty of folks where I would say present company excluded. However, I'm going to make a few general statements. Somewhere along the line, we started doing, if not everything for our children, we started doing a lot of things for our children. Certain parents maybe started shielding them from discomfort, and now we're surprised when they grow up and cannot handle the real world. Again, I'm making general assumptions here. All you parents out there, get your knickers in a twist when, how dare he talk to me about how to be a parent? Just everybody relax and just follow along here. So I want to talk about some of these parenting skills, I guess, that were maybe overlooked by some people. And it has nothing to do with buying more gear. It has nothing to do with food storage or bug out bags or water filters. It has everything to do with how those children are raised and how they are raised to think. How are they raised to solve problems? Are they able to stay calm when things go sideways? Are they able to help instead of waiting to be helped? Now, this is what I would call, I guess, generational preparedness. And this is the long game. And honestly, it might be the most important prep you can make, again, as part of the long game. Because gear breaks, food expires, but a capable human being, that lasts a lifetime. And to be able to pass it on to your children, and then your children able to pass it along to their children. So the good news is you don't need a curriculum. We don't necessarily need to take notes. You do not need any special training. You just need to be intentional, and it starts earlier than most people think. So let's break it down by age and give every age group a job or responsibility. Now, let's talk about ages 5 to 8. And again, folks, this is just my own observation and things I've seen, things I've read, things I've heard. I'm not Dr. Phil. I'm not a child psychologist. I'm making general assumptions about parenting because I am a parent. So ages 5 to 8. At these ages, kids are sponges. They want to explore. They want to understand how things work. They ask why 400 times a day, and most parents get tired of it. And it makes sense. I get it. But that's curiosity. That is your greatest tool. Don't shut it down. Aim for it. You're not teaching them to be preppers at 5 years old. You're teaching them to be observant, to be aware, to notice things that other people might miss. And you can do it without them even knowing what you're doing. When you're at a restaurant, can you spot all the exits? Make it a game. How many ways out of this building can you find? They'll run around counting doors like a treasure hunt, but you've just taught them a little piece of situational awareness. You have planted a seed that potentially will grow for the rest of their lives. At the grocery store, do you remember where we parked the car, where we parked the truck? At the park, which direction is our house from here? In the car, what street are we on right now? They're just playing, but you're teaching observation, navigation, spatial awareness. These are some of the most valuable skills anyone can have, kids or otherwise. And you're building them before the kid can even tie their shoes properly. You can also start teaching them names and addresses at this age, full name, parents' names, home address, phone number. Practice what to say if they need help without making it sound scary, framing it as being smart, not being afraid to ask for help. Give them small responsibilities, checking flashlights once a month, helping you count water bottles, putting batteries in a drawer. It makes them feel capable. They feel included, and that feeling that I can help, I matter, I have a job or a duty, that's the foundation of everything else that comes later on. Again, we're not raising a tiny prepper, we're raising a kid who pays attention. And that kid is going to be miles ahead of their peers in the event things get complicated. Ages 9 through 12, where real responsibilities start to kick in. As children get a little older, things start to change. About 9 to 12, they just don't want to watch anymore. They want to do. They want real responsibilities. They want to feel like they're contributing somehow to something meaningful and not just being told what to do. And that's when you bring them onto the team in a sense. So you're going to Costco or Sam's Club, another big warehouse store. Give them the list. Call them your assistant. Kids love that. Let them pick out the canned goods. Talk about why price per can or price per jar matters. This one is less expensive per ounce. And look, this one has less sodium. Which one do we get? You're teaching them to actually think critically about major purchases, to compare, to make decisions based on information, not impulse. So you're at home. You invite them to help organize the pantry. How many cans of corn do we have? Which one expires first? Let's move those to the front. They don't know it necessarily, but they're learning inventory management, organization, and planning, skills that will serve them in every job that they will ever have. Then introduce simple emergency know-how. How to use a flashlight properly, not as a toy. Where do you shut off the water shutoff valve at the street? What a basic first aid kit contains and why. How to turn off a breaker, where the fire extinguisher is and how it works. These are not scary conversations. These are empowering conversations. You're saying, I trust you with this knowledge. You're ready to use it. And then something timely, something that matters more than it ever has, teaching them to ask questions. If they see something dramatic online, a headline, a video, a claim, ask them, how do we know this is true? Who posted it? What's the source? And is there another side to this conversation? You're not telling them what to think. You're teaching them how to think, how to slow down, how to seek good information before reacting. And in a world that profits from outrage and impulse, that skill is worth more than anything you could put in a bug-out bag. Capable kids growing into capable adults. That is the goal. Ages 13 to 17, preparing adults. As your kids reach their teenage years, somewhere around 13 to 17, our roles change. We're not just teaching anymore, we're transitioning. We're preparing adults, and the window is shorter than you think. If they have their own vehicle or they're about to get their own vehicle, introduce the idea of a get-home bag. Don't just hand them one. Sit together. Go through every item. Why is this in this bag? When do you use it? And more importantly, ask them, what is your plan if the car breaks down, if the phone dies, if they have to wait 2 hours for assistance, if the weather turns bad, if they cannot reach you? We're not trying to scare them. We're trying to make them think ahead, to have a mental framework for handling the unexpected, because the unexpected is coming, whether it's a flat tire at 16 or a real emergency at 35. The kids who've been asked, what's your plan if 100 times are the ones who stay calm when it matters. Also, trust them with meaningful household responsibilities, not the chores for the sake of chores, real contribution, changing smoke detector batteries, making a list of what needs replacing in the first aid kit, maybe even some budgeting decisions. We've got $100 of supplies for this month. What do you think we should prioritize? What do you think we can put off until next month? You're teaching them resource management, trade-offs, delayed gratification. These are adult skills and they need to practice before they're on their own. Another area that might be overlooked sometimes, and that's everyday practical skills. Checking the oil in your vehicle, changing a flat tire, jumping a battery, cooking full meals start to finish, not microwaving, but real cooking, doing laundry, basic sewing, using hand tools. These sound simple, but I'm telling you right now, there are plenty of 25-year-old kids out there. There are plenty of 25-year-old young adults out there that cannot do any of these things. And it's because no one expected them to learn. The more capable they become now, the less intimidating life surprises will seem later on. We're building confidence through competence, not through praise, not through participation trophies, through actually being able to do things. And one thing that every parent faces today, teaching teens how to navigate information. This is critical. When you see something online, a news story, a viral post, a claim from an influencer, encourage them to ask, again, who posted this? Where's the source? Am I reacting to facts or emotion? What would happen if I waited 24 hours before forming an opinion on what I just saw or what I just read? That is real world prep training. That's calm decision making under pressure. That's the ability to think clearly when everyone around you is panicking or outraged or confused. If we can prepare them with that, with the ability to stay calm, think critically, and act deliberately, then we're not just prepping our kids. We're shaping capable adults for tomorrow, kids who don't crumble at the first signs of difficulty, adults who can lead their own families through difficult times, and adults who become the persons other people turn to, not the person who needs to be rescued. The opposite approach of all this and why it fails, in my opinion. Let's talk about the other side because I think it's important to name something that, in my opinion, does not necessarily work. If you do everything for your kids, you're not helping them, you're crippling them. I know that sounds harsh, but I believe this is true. Every time you solve a problem that they could have solved themselves, you're teaching them that they are not able to handle that. Every time you shield them from a consequence, you're teaching them actions don't matter. Every time you step in before they struggle, you're robbing them of the chance to build resilience. I'm not talking about neglect. I'm not saying throw your kids into the deep end and walk away. Quick sidebar, that is exactly what happened to me. My grandfather, when I was 7, threw me in the deep end of a pool on a camping trip. I think we were in Arizona, and literally walked away. That is how I learned to doggy paddle. Not saying anybody should do that, but that's what happened to me. What I'm saying is let them struggle a little. Let them fail at small things while the stakes are still relatively low. Let them figure it out. Let them figure it out with you nearby, but not doing it for them. A child who has never been allowed to fail does not know how to recover from that failure. A kid who has never been uncomfortable does not know how to adapt. A kid who's never had to solve a problem doesn't know how to think under pressure. And here's a connection to preparedness. What is a crisis? It's an unexpected problem that requires calm thinking, quick adaptation, and the ability to function without someone telling you what to do. If you've raised a kid who never had to do any of these things, they are not prepared, no matter how much gear that you have stockpiled. The gear is for the family, the skills are for the individual. And the skills that start at home when they're young in small amounts does not feel like training, but it really is. So to wrap this up, this is what I want to leave everybody with today. Preparedness isn't just about what's in your closet or your garage or your pantry. It's about what's in your kids' heads. It's about the habits you're building with them right now, whether they're 5 or 15. Every time you ask your kid to notice something, you're building awareness. Every time you give them a real responsibility, you're building self-confidence. Every time you let them struggle and figure it out, you're building resilience. Every time you teach them to question what they see or what they hear, you're building critical thinking. And all of those things, awareness, confidence, resilience, critical thinking, those are real preps. Those are life preps. Those are the things that don't expire. Those are the things that cannot be stolen or broken or lost in a flood. You're not just raising kids, you're raising the next generation of capable, clear-headed, self-reliant adults. And in a world that seems to be producing fewer and fewer of those, this matters. This matters more than any piece of gear that you will ever purchase. So look at your kids this week, your grandkids, whatever age they might be, and ask yourself, what is one thing that I can teach them? What's one responsibility I can hand them? What's one small moment where I can step back and let them figure it out? Start there. That's the prep. As always, folks, thank you so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. practicalpreppodcast@gmail.com. Please like, subscribe, review, leave comments, tell your friends, wake the neighbors. I appreciate all of my listeners, every single one. And I will get that mailbag episode put together soon. And I owe you all episode 14 of Lone Man on the Ridge. I started the rough draft earlier today. All right, folks, as always, please be careful out there. Take care of one another. And until next time.
You've been listening to The Common Sense Practical Prepper. Subscribe, like, drop a review. Over and out.